Jennifer Tilly kicks things off with pocket sixes. This is a decent hand to entertain a small raise with and see if luck is on your side.
Back on Arden. She calls the 3-bet as well, so 3-way to the flop. Oh my word, set over set and Griffin's flop top pair?
This is going to be bad for Griffin, but it's going to be real bad for Arden.
With the board that the flop delivers, everyone has something to bet about. But instead of that, Tilly and Cho decide to check. With that in mind, our weak top pair is trying to take control of the board by shooting a small bet of $2,500. Tilly is loving it because other than a set of kings, nothing else on the board beats her, and she would love to see this pot growing, so naturally she calls. Miss Cho, on the other hand, has a completely different plan. She is not waiting for the pot to grow. She is growing it herself. She does that by firing a $9,400 bet. Now Benger has a choice. Entertain this top pair, or realize the truth and just give up.
Why is he so serious? He's like a goober 99% of the time.
The angry man quickly decides to fold and not pursue the king. On the other hand, Tilly is more than happy to oblige Miss Cho by re-raising to $30,000 with her set of sixes.
Oh boy.
Jen re-raises $30,000.
At this point, Miss Cho should know the deep trouble she finds herself in, but still decides to go ahead and call on her set of fives. The turn delivers the 9 of clubs, a card that is completely irrelevant to both of them. If I was in the position of Tilly, I would be betting pot here. What would you? Let me know in the comments below. I guess Tilly is not so happy about my jamming suggestion, so she decides to check here and wait for something magical on river. Same thing for Miss Cho. In her case, though, that is in her favor.
And Arden spikes a 1-outer. She's got quads. Meanwhile, Jen has rivered a full house.
Buckle up, because this hand just went from pretty sick to absolutely bonkers.
People say patience is a virtue, but in Tilly's case, her patience came to bite her from behind. The river delivers the only card that can save Miss Cho, and that is the 5 of clubs. Now the only question is, will Tilly get baited by her now full house hand? Or will she read her for the quads Miss Cho has? And as we all thought she should do, Miss Cho goes.
There it is.
This is not good.
No, it sure isn't.
If Jen calls, this will be the biggest pot of the game.
Arden, you have quads because I can't beat quads.
Does she know?
I don't think you have kings full. And I don't think you have 9s full. You might have 5s full.
That's a call.
Daniel Negreanu is looking down on 6-5 offsuit. He opens to $3,500. He wants position and initiative against 2 players who defend wide rather than a bloated pre-flop pot. Laak calls with ace-queen, choosing underrep over isolation. A 3-bet would narrow Negreanu and invite a 4-bet, while flatting keeps dominated aces and king-queen in.
Oh, damn. Can't believe you put me in this spot, yo. You put me in a bad spot right now, man.
Kind of what I do.
Tony G calls with 8-6 suited because closing the action lets a speculative hand realize cleanly when the pot goes street to street. Laak checks the rainbow flop to hand the mic to the pre-flop raiser, which is exactly what top pair, top kicker wants when it aims to harvest bets. Negreanu bets $6,500, not to scoop immediately, but to declare range, fold out the air, tax king highs and medium pairs, and force the callers to wonder if he truly owns the ace. Laak calls rather than raise because inflating now isolates a narrow, strong continue range. Calling keeps Negreanu's bluffs alive.
No outs. Sounds good.
Tony folds once bet and call collapse his floats and weak pairs, and Laak is suddenly under-repped with the deck on a string. Laak checks the paired ace turn to continue disguising strength and to invite another barrel on a card that supercharges the raiser's story. Negreanu bets $9,000 because if you told the ace on the flop, you must keep telling it here. The second stab squeezes king X and pocket pairs that now fear trips and stays perfectly coherent with an ace X value line. Laak calls again, a disciplined slow roll of information. Ace-queen sits far ahead of Negreanu's c-betting region. The texture offers no front door draw to miss, and letting Negreanu keep writing is the highest EV path.
Violent call. Violent. Knock the ace out the park.
Laak checks the river jack for a third time to finalize the inducement and cap his line in Negreanu's eyes. Negreanu fires $28,000, a polarizing closer, trip aces or nothing, and 6-5 is a tidy bluff candidate because it unblocks the folds he wants.
Pre-flop, I was like, does he have 2 kings? But I can't fold, can I? I have too big a hand.
You have the trip aces. Negreanu bets more than half the pot after you checked. What's your move? Do you call his bluff or believe him and fold? And why in one sentence? Best clear answer gets pinned.
I feel like I'm paying you off, but I don't know if I can fold. I don't think I can fold, Daniel. Daniel, son. Me not strong. Me not know how to fold.
There's the call.
Oh, you wanted to fold so bad, too. You got it.
Phil Ivey is looking down on 8-6 offsuit. Vanessa makes it $25K with pocket sevens bread and butter early value that plays beautifully on low textures and keeps worse pairs and broadways defending. Artem overcalls, sweetening the price. Phil Ivey flats purposefully. 8-6 thrives deep and multi-way, makes nutted straights on boards early raisers hate, and carries just enough backdoor potential to pressure later streets. The flop falls low and connected. Artem checks and Phil fires 50K when checked to. Into 2 players and on a dynamic board, that stab credibly represents sets, 2-pair, and strong draws, while letting him realize his equity with the open-ender plus the 6 of clubs as a valuable blocker. Vanessa just calls with top set. Raising with narrow ranges to strong draws and made flushes later, calling keeps Phil's bluffs and semi-bluffs alive, invites Artem to continue, and disguises the real strength of her hand on a texture that can shift quickly. The turn is the 10 of clubs, completing the front door. Artem checks again and Phil barrels 150K. That card is a green light for continued pressure. If he's bluffing, the club gives him story and leverage. If he's value, he wants to tack sets and 1-pair hands immediately. The 6 of clubs in his hand trims the strongest flush combos Vanessa can have. Vanessa's call is disciplined. She retains all her full house redraws, avoids isolating herself versus made flushes, and keeps Phil's entire range pointed at a river decision. The river is the 4 of hearts. No new club appears, but one of Phil's key rivers does. The straight gets there.
Phil Ivey, everybody. Best in the world. Cracks sevens with 8-6, the classic.
While we wait for Phil Ivey to make his decision, please click the like button. It helps out a lot, thank you. He chooses 400K, a polarizing bomb that plays perfectly against the range Vanessa has represented by calling twice, overpairs without a club, sevens that didn't raise, and some cautious club hands. With the 6 of clubs blocker reducing nut flush combos and a coherent story from flop to river, this sizing forces exactly the kind of uncomfortable, high-stakes decision he's been building toward all hand.
She folds! She made that look so easy.
Not the turn I wanted to see.
3-7?
Negreanu is looking down on 10-9 suited. Schlomi opens to $475 with pocket kings, the classic early position value raise that invites dominated high cards to make mistakes. Boniati flats behind, a routine set mine that keeps the opener wide and creates a pot where overpairs are forced to play multi-way. On the button, Negreanu overcalls with 10-9 suited. He buys position against a likely overpair, keeps the pot single raised so his connected hand can realize, and preserves a post-flop story that can credibly arrive at straights and 2-pair on many middling runouts. With 3 players and deep stacks, Negreanu's plan is to control price now and fight for leverage later. The board rolls out wet and middle, exactly the texture that pressures an opener's range. Schlomi continuation bets $1,525 into 2 opponents to tax the spades and charge the gutters while protecting his likely overpair. Boniati steps aside, Negreanu continues. With top pair, strong kicker for this configuration, and position, calling is superior to raising. It keeps Schlomi's bluffs alive, avoids isolating versus the strongest value, and retains every turn card that can add equity or scare an overpair. He's now set up to maneuver without inflating the pot unnecessarily. The Queen of Hearts lands. That card is fine for kings, but improves Negreanu's believable value region to include Queen 9 and some 2-pair that could have peeled. Schlomi opts for a measured $2,125, continuing his value protection line, without bloating the pot on a card that helps the caller more than the pre-flop raiser. Negreanu calls again, disciplined and deliberate. He keeps his range uncapped, realizes equity with 10-9, and holds the option to seize the narrative on favorable rivers, or punish thin value bets with a polarizing raise. The river is the 8 of clubs, a quiet but meaningful shift that completes 6-7 and strengthens combos like 9-8 that Negreanu can absolutely show up with. Schlomi puts out a small $3,000 bet, more price setting than power, trying to get looked up by worse pairs while avoiding a big decision. Negreanu springs the trap to $12,800, polarizing himself to straights, two pair, or sets, and telling a story perfectly consistent with his passive turn. 10-9 is a sharp candidate. It blocks calls from Queen 9, doesn't block missed spades, and represents exactly the value holdings that beat an overpair.
Aces or kings? Can I say that, or is that illegal? Heads up. I can say what he has, but not what I have. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking aces or kings.
I appreciate you watching this far. Could you please give this video a like? Thank you.
And Schlomi's now thinking, if you've read me for aces or kings, surely you can beat aces or kings. I have to fold.
Nick Airball finds ace-king suited in late position and turns the pre-flop spot into a squeeze. His 3-bet to 10K is perfect at these depths. It punishes flats, leverages 2 premium blockers, and sets up a post-flop range edge against the blinds. Ryan defends the big blind with pocket queens, a disciplined cold call that keeps worse in and avoids getting 4-bet into a nightmare. Calling also disguises his hand. If the board doesn't spike an ace or king, he'll realize well from out of position. The flop is range heaven for the 3-better and exactly the sort of board where Nick's holding sits on top. He goes tiny for 4K. On high card, Rainbow textures the small stab is doing 2 jobs at once. It taxes stubborn middling pairs and extracts from dominated top pairs without polarizing his range. Ryan's call is perfect. Raising turns his hand face up and risks folding out all the second best value that will keep betting for him. Calling keeps Nick's range uncapped and preserves the trap. The turn is a brick that mostly freezes ranges. Nick continues for 16K. That second small barrel keeps pressure on exactly Ryan's hand class. Strong but not invincible, and prevents the pot from getting checked through to a river that could counterfeit value. Ryan calls again, which effectively caps him under ace-king and kings, while keeping worse ace-x and the occasional floated queen in. The river pairs with the king of clubs and the board flips hard toward Nick. Ryan checks for the 3rd time, and Nick unloads 85K.
I don't think I'm folding, but that was like the stupidest river.
Wow, and Ryan seems to have a pretty good read on what's going on here.
It's a great value sizing on paired top card rivers. The big bet forces queens, king-queen, and even some ace-queen to make a miserable decision. Ryan can't find the fold and gets shown the bad news.
Nice throw. Great.
Nick Airball opens the cutoff to 2K and several players peel, Ryan among them from the big blind with king 10 suited. Multi-way changes everything. Opening ranges widen, top pair shrinks in relative value, and the pre-flop raiser's c-bet frequency plummets unless he can bet small and target a lot of second-best hands. The flop is a complete collision for the two we're tracking. Ryan flops trips. Nick already holds 7s full of kings. Into a field, this bet is powerful because it looks like automatic c-bet, while actually extracting from every king and diamond draw without scaring them off. Raising from Ryan would polarize him into exactly boats or bluffs and punt value against the rest of the table, so he just calls and keeps worse kings and bluffs in front of him. The turn brings the queen of hearts. Ryan checks again, and Nick follows with another small value bet, 5K. That sizing continues the same story. It prices in dominated kings and sticky pocket pairs, while keeping the pot multi-way friendly. If Nick goes big here, he folds out too much of the range he's targeting and isolates himself versus better kings. The river is the 10 of hearts, and the script flips. After 2 streets of check call, he now leads for 20K. That river donk is smart for 2 reasons. First, the board texture can slow Nick's betting cadence and risk a check back. Second, compared with the first hand, where Ryan faced a big river blast, leading lets him set the price and guarantee value from worse boats and stubborn kings that hate folding.
I have a bad feeling about this one. I have a full house.
Me too. Ryan leads. Nick just calls, and Ryan wins a pot of $66,000.
Jennifer Tilley is looking down on 8-6 suited. Negreanu opens with ace-2 offsuit. That is a light but purposeful steal, using the ace as a blocker to reduce the chance he runs into a premium and leaning on position to realize whatever equity shows up later. Tilley answers with a re-raise. That choice is great against a suspected wide open because suited connectors play cleanly post-flop, deny cheap realization to the opener, and set her up to attack a player who loves to take flops.
It's a little too small, Jen. Phil Laak is going to be upset with you after that raise size because it's too small.
Last time I took advice from you, I lost the tournament.
Sorry.
Negreanu calls rather than 4-betting. He keeps her range wide, carries the positional advantage into a pot that is not yet bloated, and quietly pockets the option to turn later cards into leverage, even when he misses.
Okay, now I'm going to do the dunk bet.
That's not a donk bet because you were the pre-flop raiser.
Oh, okay, it's not a dunk bet.
It's a continuation bet.
A continuation bet.
Tilley follows through for a small c-bet. The sizing stresses floats and gut shots and keeps her range comfortably uncapped.
A lot of bad cards come off, then I can just bluff raise the turn or something stupid like that.
You could.
Turn a pair into a bluff. I'm really good at that. It's one of my big things Bill Reynolds taught me.
Negreanu does not have value, but he does have a plan. He calls to float, buying one more card and preserving the initiative advantage that comes from acting last. If she slows on the turn, he gets to tell the next chapter. If she barrels big, he can release cheaply and move on. The texture inches toward the middling wheelish territory that favors the caller. Tilly checks. That single check compresses her range away from very strong overpairs and toward one-pair hands and draws that prefer pot control. Negreanu seizes the mic with a bet. The number is not huge, but the message is loud. He denies a free card to overcards, pressures hands like ace-queen and king-jack that c-bet once, and begins building a story that can arrive at straights and two-pair by the river. His literal hand did not improve, however his distribution did, because the cards he credibly represent improved. Calling the flop to take it away on the turn is classic small ball pressure, and he executes it cleanly. This is the card that ties the room together, and the run-out connects squarely with the very suited connectors that defend 3-bet pots from the blinds. Tilly leads small. That type of sizing often functions as a blocker, a way to name a price with a hand that does not want to face a pot-sized bomb. To Negreanu, that looks like a door left slightly open. He chooses to kick it in and chips. The shove polarizes him to the straights and strong two-pair he has been representing since the turn.
We probably have the same hand. Oh, so sick. You have 9-jack, right?
Would that be the same hand as you have? Because if you did have that and you didn't call by now, it would be a little bizarre.
You're in Jennifer Tilly's seat. You have the straight. Negreanu shoves over your small lead. What's your move, snap call, or an impossible fold? And why in one sentence? Best clear answer gets pinned.
Oh, God.
Oh, you have a 6? Can you raise me with a 6 out of position?
No.
That's crazy talk.
Tilly folds.